What's going on, everyone? Welcome to my first ever YouTube video. I don't know if video is the proper term, but prior to this, I've already done a couple of live streams, and yeah, I think I just realized uh, 3 streams late that maybe it's better if I start off by doing recorded videos first and then just upload since I really don't have a lot of time to edit. This is the only time of my day where I get some time to spend painting. So today I think I'm just gonna try to do something. I want to hopefully paint an image of like a hunter, and not sure yet how I want to go about that, and hopefully we find success along the way. If not, that's okay too. Um, a lot of the masters from the field of arts that I've watched, they would always say to beginners and to those who are just, you know, not as skilled yet, to just, don't be hard on yourself and just take your time, enjoy the process. And I think it's a good reminder for someone like me, and that's something I can easily live by because I do enjoy painting, and especially if along the process I learn some valuable items and I get the image sort of um, that I'm sort of chasing after. So I think for now we're just gonna construct what we want this figure to be, hunter to be. I'm trying not to do a lot of scenes with backgrounds at the moment because I really want to try and focus on my skills with just with painting first in general before I head on about making scenes that have intricate that have very intricate combination of background and characters. So yeah, for now we'll just try to wing it and see where we land. I'm just trying to measure because often when I paint, my head would be over just by the camera, and then like when I look up to my screen, I just see a bunch of hairs blocking the way. So yeah. Wonder if it changed my orientation to sort of somewhere like this, but then the camera is not gonna get full coverage of the paper. So I find myself often having to settle for something like this. Okay. So I guess I'm gonna assume that the top of the head would be somewhere right here, and uh, I guess it's a very tight fitting hat that our hunter has on. Now I'm just gonna try to sort of guesstimate where the landmarks are gonna be at. So this might be a good placement for the nose. I initially wanted to be the focal point to just have like the eye right here be shown and then the rest would be in shadow, but we'll see how we can make up for that in the later stages. Hopefully it'll still be an achievable goal. But if not, that's okay too. I want him to sort of be um, like a serious looking person. Like, he's not here to play games. He's here to, maybe feed his family and look for food. So for the eyes, I guess we have to have quite a bit of an animated eyes for our character here. Maybe not angry, but sort of like a determined look. Maybe that'll work. I guess we'll try to cover up some part of his chin to make it appear as if he's wearing some sort of a turtleneck to protect him from um, weather. And when I look at this, I kind of starting to realize that the hat appears a little bit too small, so I guess we can just try and extend that. And that's kind of a bad habit for me as well, that whenever I try to draw characters that are wearing hats, they often seem to fit quite a bit too small for my liking. This would be an example right here because if we were going to look at his head, we see that it should continue over here. So we should have uh, we should still have some hat material extending to here, maybe even a little bit here. Then, you know, whenever I'm painting, I don't really, there are some blind spots that I'd often miss, and these are just one of the many. So yeah, that's one. So hopefully this looks a bit more adjusted now. And I wonder if I want to show anything that he's holding, perhaps maybe a gun or something. I don't know. So I'm gonna try to use my hands for reference to how it's gonna be positioned as if he's holding like a shotgun or something. And we know that the hands are roughly as big as the face from the hairline to the jaw or to the chin. So, okay, maybe that might be the way that a hand would cradle the shotgun. Some knuckles. Maybe something like that. And it's going to be really difficult for us to communicate that this is a gun that he's holding here, unless we can really highlight the colors of this and make it look like it's meant to be gripped. And I think an opportunity that we might have here as well is to show like the trigger slot when you're looking at it from below. So that's probably a good opportunity. So I'll just put that as a placeholder there. I think essentially the majority of what I'm doing right now is just placeholder as far as I'm concerned because yeah, these are just line works to sort of build off of when we start to actually put some values and colors in. Okay. So now that we have that, I think the next thing for me to decide is where is the light hitting from. Um, I already know that this is going to be a dark part right here for our character. Um, because it's shaded, but how dark is the question? And I sort of want to portray him as a Caucasian male, you know. Um, I guess the way we do that is with a little bit of white and red for skin tone. Some yellow as well, just to introduce some hint of brownness to it. And that's probably good enough color. So we'll just apply this. I guess I'll just assume that the light is hitting him right in front of, as if there's a spotlight shining in front of his nose. So that would mean that the light would be like somewhere right there. And then so We only have very few select dark areas for this one, so the face would be really um, quite in the lighter side. Maybe the edge of the nose might be dark, just because there's form change happening over there. Maybe the edge of the cheek as well. Okay. Now for the light, I'm just gonna dilute this same color here. Maybe not. Maybe I'll just go all the way and then just leave a very few highlighted section where the light is perpendicular to the plane of the face. Yeah, because I I want to get to my darks immediately because that's a that's an advice that I've heard in YouTube by a painting instructor named Stefan Bauman. Um, and it seems like he really knows what it is he's talking about. And sort of worked for my last painting. I think I've established my darks right away, where this was the first one I did, and then from there on, I just sort of gauged like, is anything ever going to be darker than this value? Perhaps it might have been this area here. I could have darkened that up a little bit, honestly. Maybe this as well. That's where the ambient occlusion occurs, I would imagine. So, yeah, that's what I want to do here. That's what I want to accomplish. And so, now that we have dark, I think we'll just add a little bit more red here. Now that we're approaching a little bit of the red territory, I think I'll just add some green to it to sort of neutralize it down. Um, Neutralizing would cause it to go onto the grayer side. Just to show the colors I'm getting this from mixing here. Let's add some yellow. Some green. Okay, I like that brown. It's quite intense compared to what we put down so far. So I think I'm just gonna run that through here. Make it really stand out. Now I'm just realizing, like, I've applied the same brown onto what I would assume would be my darkest value in the painting. So I think I'm just gonna go over through this one more time with a little bit more darker value just to accentuate that, just to show more intense darkness in that area there. I don't know why I'm leaving these areas for the eyebrows, but having done that now, maybe this is a blonde Caucasian character hunter that we're dealing with. Um, then from here, we're just gonna slowly transition our colors into lesser intense, just get it blended. Trying to be careful with my darks here, um, because I don't want to end up with a character that is now um, that is now far from what I first imagined. As much as possible, I want to stay faithful to the image that I'm trying to see in my head. And so, yeah, I think we'll just mix up a little bit more of the color here that would suggest a Caucasian skin tone. I don't really like how I just ended up painting that entire area there. So just take some colors off away just to suggest that where the light is hitting. This one I'll just try to blend it. Same as for the edges where the forms are turning away now. Now I'm thinking another area that might be favorable to establish our darks would be the literal underside of the hat. So I think for this one, I could probably go quite dark. So I'll just mix up uh, a dark, maybe reddish black here. And I really like to get more I'd really like to get more familiar with this act of painting where, you know, I'm straying away from looking at references, rather I'm I'm trying to see the image in my mind and, you know, take my best shot at it. I don't like the way that this is turning out, because it's, if you look at it, it seems to be in the same value as far as darkness wise. It's pretty close then to where I want. I want it a little bit more darker than what we're showing right now. You know, darker and stronger. I want to be convinced that, you know, this, the underside of this hat is black clothing or black cloth material. You know, like it's actually meant to bring shade to whoever wears it, as if no light can try and penetrate there. So when you're wearing this, you know that you know that your skin is in some good hands. Maybe I'll just do some sort of a subtle line over the hat here. Yeah, maybe I can even bring some of that down. I really like how dark that is. Let's just try that. Okay. And from what I know, we should also have some dark area here underneath the nose. I don't like how watery that is showing. Um, Look, it's just sort of becoming transparent rather than uh, a solid color. I want to be, I want to try to be a bit more aggressive with my paint, you know. Um, I want it to be opaque almost in the way that it shows. And I'm darkening the outline here because I want to try to communicate that this is quite a steep, that this character has got a strong, sharp nose, which isn't a very rare thing, especially for uh, Caucasian males. You know, their noses seem to protrude quite a bit. I remember my brother, his nose sort of like one, just it's sort of like a beak almost if you look at it from the side. Like that's his nose profile. And what's crazy is that it didn't even happen until he was like 14 or 15, where it just started developing to that extreme. And so, that's funny because who would have thought? But yeah, we do have a little bit of um, Caucasian blood in us because my grandfather, his grandfather is from Spain, which, although history lesson here is that quite a bit of Spaniards came over and took over Philippines. Um, I'm not sure which year specifically, but yeah, so there are some DNAs from Caucasians that is definitely present in Filipinos today. So yeah, just thought I'd go on a bit of a history ramble there, family history ramble. Okay. And then for this, I'd like to show a little bit more dark as well with the underlip. Now, I don't want to try to overdo it with the dark skin tone rendering because I feel like the more I do it, the older the character starts to appear. So I guess now we'll just head on for the lips here. Um, so grab a little bit of red, a little bit of that brown. Okay. Um, so the light is sitting this way. This area would be a little bit dark. So this area would be much lighter because the light is hitting this way. So this area is exposed to the light. Okay, so let's just do that. Dilute my mixture a little bit here. Get a little bit of that red. Oh boy, that's not what I wanted. So you see how now the color is sort of mixed onto the upper lip, which is not what I was looking for in this situation. But we just try to adapt and see how we can rectify these situations. I've heard recently that the more you try to control a medium, the more it's going to try to control you. And uh, I do feel that. Do feel that a lot, especially for a beginner like me. You know, you you see all these professionals in Instagram just creating masterpieces after masterpieces, and you try to replicate the same, but now what you've done is just put even more pressure on yourself when the act of creating should be fun, and it should be should be gratifying. This might be one of the very first few times I might draw uh, a blue pupil. So I think I don't want to go too strong of a blue here, but I definitely want to show where the highlight would be for the eyes and the shadow, just just because I think that might make such a cool contrast. Um, okay, just commit, I guess. Right, here it is. Where's our color? There's our eye. It's unrealistically blue right now, but later on we'll try to add some more colors into it, and hopefully it's not gonna be as intense of a blue like that. Might even take off a little bit of color there, just to suggest that there's shadow area and then there's light area. Okay. Um, for the eyes, I think we'll just go back to our staple brown here. Um, just the lining, just the outline of the eyes. Happened again. See? That's so funny about this medium is that it's a lot of accidents that you'll get in the way. Now I'll try to pick that color off and hopefully, you know, not let that invade the light I wanted to establish in the pupil. Yeah, I'm not too fan of how dark the lining is for the eyes. Makes it look like as if he's wearing some sort of a eyeliner or mascara, I don't know. But I think I'll just smooth that out, try to blend it and hope for the best. I find that's I find that to be the case a lot of the times when I'm doing watercolor. You just hope for the best. Okay. And for this one, I'd be fine with a stronger, darker brown because this is the upper eyelids. Maybe we'll even put a deeper pocket over here. And then just try to blend that out. Okay. Um, all right. Okay. I can kind of get behind this. I don't know how to paint the camouflage though. So I think I'll just like to look up what camouflage look like and how it can be painted in watercolor. Okay. So there seems to be this lighter color on the top, and then followed by, yeah, I think it's some sort of a colorway. We can definitely try and attempt that. But for now, I think I'd like to finish off some features on the face. Um, maybe maybe let's try for a blonde eyebrow. Strong blonde eyebrows. Um, okay. Let's take some of our brown from earlier. Bit bit too watery than I would have liked. Like I said, um, we just try to find our way through whatever it is we're trying to accomplish here. No, he doesn't seem to show any expression of focused determination anymore, which is what I would have wanted in the first place. So I think I'll just add some darker areas for in between the eyebrows to just sort of show some scrunch in the skin here. Okay. Sorry, needed to momentarily pause there. My wife woke asleep due to being, um, for one, she is pregnant, and number two, it is really quite a bit hot and humid in our house right now. So, yeah, we live in the fourth floor, which is the top floor of an apartment complex. And yeah, during summers, our unit is, the one that's mostly exposed to the sun. So yeah, it's really a tough one here. Um, so I just quickly installed some blackout curtains um, for our window here that, you know, that is in a room which, whenever this room is lit, it sort of emits extra light outside of the common space. So I just had to shut this room out of light quickly, just so she can open the door and let some more circulated air into their bedroom, into our bedroom where, her and our son is sleeping at right now. Um, yeah, as far as this painting, I'm pleased with the decision I've made on the nose to show a little bit of the nostril there. A little bit darker than I would have liked, but you know, maybe just getting the definition is good enough. Getting to show the definition, just so um, viewers can tell that there's some planes changing here. Okay, I think I'll just try this because this is something I've been hearing too from watching some of those videos, and there's this thing called subsurface scattering where the light is sort of the light sort of circulates to areas of the skin, can penetrate right through it, which in turn sort of brings out this reddish color, which is for our nose, and I don't think that worked really well. Maybe we could add some redness to the cheeks and the ear, maybe, just to see how it looks. And then with a wet brush, try and soften that out. I think it's working really well right now. I guess the lesson is that I should have first wet the paper a little bit so that there's a better spread. Not, it's kind of subtle, but yeah, it's not seen very well with the camera. That's okay. Probably probably works out for the best. Okay, the camel hat. I think we'll mix some very natural looking colors. So colors that are found in nature, which is definitely green. Okay, I'll add some little bit of red to that just to tone back down a bit. I think my mistake here would have been that I did not color the overall hat first. So I think I'll do that right now. Uh, yeah, I'll do that right now. We might even do a little bit of wet on wet action here. So I'll just let this dry for a bit and then I'm gonna go do the wet on wet for the entire hat. Um, in the meanwhile, I think we can do further darkening of this area here of the ears. Right now, I'm just trying to establish more contours just for a better read of our character's face. Not really too happy with that. It started making it a bit too muddy for my liking. Now we've introduced quite a lot of random greens here, and I understand that, you know, it shouldn't be too bad theoretically because this character would be in a forest where a lot of the surrounding is green, but I wish I could have done a better job of just, be able to isolate the colors a little bit better. Rather than them just randomly blending in with the other colors that's already been established. Right now, I'm just tilting my paper to sort of let the colors run down and have a hopefully have a smoother blend um, for the wash. And I think I could probably leave this area just like so because this is where the sun should be hitting after all. Okay, I think I'll just take out some of that color there. Okay. Doesn't look quite like a hunter, but more like a military or something. Well, everything doesn't, uh, you know, we try to obsess about everything falling into place, then we'll end up not having anything in place. Because we're just gonna keep psyching our mind into thinking that I could have done this better, but there's a difference between doing it better and then just doing it. And a lot of times, what we lack is just the ability to, give it a shot. And in this phase of my art journey, that's what I'm trying to accomplish. Just give everything a shot and then try to learn as much as I can. You know, I don't have to be this spectacular artist right off the bat who can, you know, come up with this images in my head where I can nail it down with such accuracy that you wouldn't be able to tell whether it's from reference or not. Doesn't have to be that way. As far as I can tell, this is something I'm willing to do well into my later years for as long as life allows. Yeah, I think to me there's something beautiful about having the ability to admit that, I don't have to be the best right away, but it would be nice to see some progress along the way. What I think is nice is that watercolor is sort of transparent. So in such cases like this, um, I could, we should still be able to see some differentiation between the light and the dark here. Hopefully, I purposely tried to make the edges a little bit more dark, the turning point. Yeah, I'm really happy with how this camel is turning out. Um, yeah, like I mentioned, it doesn't have to be perfect, but just have to have some sort of familiarity or at least knowledge about how to accomplish something that looks similar to it. I think for this one, I'll go with a little bit more of a darker blue green. Okay, there goes our camel. I think what I'd like to do as well is just to have some definitive line here that sort of separates the top portion of the hat versus the shading portion of the hat. So I want to establish this line here. Maybe the way I can do that is um, going back to this green that we used earlier, and then just ever so slightly, ever so slightly. Then maybe later on I'll probably go on and have a wash over here when everything is dried out. I'll definitely do that. I'd like to try that. No, I don't really want to do Camel in the entirety of his suit, but you did forget about his hand and his gun, so let's tackle that one. It's gonna be a bit tricky because I think I've sort of ran out of the brown that we used, or the skin tone that we've used for our character here. And this one should be okay. Alright. I really have a lot of hard time with establishing hands, and so I'm just gonna have to bear with myself here because they're one of the trickiest things to draw and communicate. Just drawing it alone would be difficult, let alone trying to paint it. I think we can use a little bit more of this color here. Okay. And then we should be transitioning um, darker here. All the way into the light. I think I have to be careful around this part because remember, this is where the gun is going to be at. So I want to make sure that that is communicated very well. All right, now let's just make a dark black, same as before, maybe same value as this, just to differentiate where the hand is and where the gun is. It's times like this where I really wish, time would just stand still and freeze. Um, I wish it doesn't have to be 1:18 a.m. in the next minute right now. I wish it would just freeze for a moment and allow me to savor every paint stroke or every color and putting down here. I think there's good enough separation there. Um, okay. Now it looks like I may either have to settle with a black shotgun or a brown shotgun. Just one moment here. In shotguns, they're often matte in color, I think. Yeah, let's do black because everything in this painting is already quite strong in natural colors. So just do that right now. You know, shotguns would have these ridges in it, especially on the part where you cock it. Okay, I'm not that big of a fan of how that turned out. Um, man, too bad. Well, another problem I'm having with this painting is that um, my water is getting really muddy. So a lot of I'm wondering if that has an effect on the colors I'm mixing from here on out. If they're going to be a bit more muddy than expected. Okay. It's not as clear that it's intended to be a shotgun, but I can try and fix that. And another bad habit that I'm seeing here is that if you look at the hands, it's the same thing that happened to this hands. It's like grandpa's not really holding it. He's more like his hands are more like paper thin if you think about it, because the cane should have volume in it for him to actually grasp onto it. So I think to rectify this, I should have extended the hand should be extended a little bit like so, just to communicate to the viewer that you know grandpa's actually holding on to this cane here. Like, to me, that already makes a lot of sense because there's volume in it rather than just flat like this where it's like, so if I'm gonna be holding my mouse, like my hands would overlap, like my hands would not be flush to the surface or flush to the edge of that mouse, which is what we're seeing here. So either this guy's got extremely long fingers, or it's just like paper thin flat hands. um I don't know. What should he wear? What color should he wear? Hmm, that is the question. You know what? Let's just go camel. Why not? We've already gone there. Why don't we go there once more, I guess? I'm just gonna wet my paper. And I'm doing this so I can see the light. Where am I actually which spots am I actually um getting versus which spots am I leaving dry? Because I don't want any dry spots for this one. I just want to get a good coverage of wet paper here. Okay. All right. So the green, a little bit more blue here, a little bit more gray, or make it a little bit more gray with some red, more neutral. Okay, can live with that. So now the wet on wet, let the waters run down. Try to catch the bead. You can see now that my paper is starting to buckle, which tells me like I'd probably applied too much water into it. But no worries. Um, this is not, this is only practice, you know. Soon enough, I'll learn how to gauge better whether my paper is being overworked with water or not. For now, I'm just uh, trying things out, see how well they work, how well do they not work, what do I like, what do I not like. You know, I ran out of that green that we had. So just to quickly try and make up for that, just mix some of the residue that we have on our palette. Okay. If I were to assume this would be shoulders there, some folds right there, there. Okay. Okay. Apologies, had to pause there quick. My son woke up from his sleep because he needed his milk. Got some left over here. Yes, might as well chug it down since I'm gonna be heading to bed soon enough anyway. Mm. All right, back to our painting here. We are now trying to get the overall fit. So let's just put some more darks here, some darks there, behind. And at the end, I think I'd like to experiment with some background, like blurred background. At least there's low commitment to make it look uh, fancy. So light is coming from here. So I'm guessing there might be some shadow right around this area. Some cast shadow from the gun. Okay, let's just mix some green. There's a lot of colors on my palette, but I try to limit myself by only using the primaries, and from time to time I use some white and some black and some secondaries, but as much as I can I'm trying to, you know, go with the primaries, like a brighter or a darker version of the primaries. Okay. Um, hmm. I think I'd like to blend this area more. Try to keep in mind to keep the general area under the hat a tad bit darker, just because the light is still falling this way. So I think we'll go with green once again, but this time we'll darken it and neutralize it further down with red. I want to establish my darkest darks now. I keep forgetting about that. Sometimes you just get carried away. All right, that looks green enough for me. It's like a dirty green, honestly, but let's try to green that back up again. And this time I'm trying to not really be um, stingy with my watercolor application. In fact, I really want to use up as much of my watercolor as possible because at some point I really want to go into oil painting, which has been a dream of mine. And hopefully, once my watercolor supply has ran out, I'd have enough. Firstly, I'd have enough courage to try it out. And secondly, hopefully, I'd have enough knowledge how to better apply them so I'm not really wasting a lot of that precious oil pigments. Okay, I think I'll just blend it out a little bit. Shadow right there, right there, of course. Shadow there. And let's not forget we have um, a cast shadow that's going to be running through. So let's so and I think this would be the base for our camouflage. Okay. Just smooth out some of the shadow shapes. Some of them I'd like to keep sharp, especially the cast shadow, and that's what I've heard. So keep the cast shadow sharp and the core shadows, you know, try to turn them when you can or blend them when you can. But in general, that's sort of been the sentiment I've always heard. Okay, so now once again for the camel pattern, I think we'll try to use up. Um, we'll try to aim for the similar colors that we have on the hat, though I don't think we're gonna nail it down perfectly. Uh, let's just aim for something close enough. And I think for this one, I'll try it with bigger shapes. Trying to be mindful as well of where these patterns terminate to really show some form in there, you know? So maybe that's probably why I'm intuitively aiming for the edges here, which is probably not the best time for it right now because some of them are still trying to dry and I'm already, noodling with it, which I do not like. Grab some more of that yellow. Okay. Now for the brownish yellow. I'm really trying to get in there really deep because I want this to run out as fast as possible. I want to be able to get rid of it so I can start experimenting with oil. Don't want the color to be too dry as well because then it's just not going to be as effective of an application when it hits the paper. So I want to be mindful of that as well. And my thoughts right now is that what a great opportunity when working with patterns to sort of show how the forms are turning and such. You know, like they can be subtle turns, but they can help indicate so much of where an object terminates. I think what I'm lacking for these camouflage pattern is a lot of the overlap that's present in an actual camouflage suit or camouflage pattern or gear. And now let's head on to the bluish green that we have. I think this that. Okay. As much as I'm enjoying this, I probably don't want to overdo the camo too much. I look like a hunter yet? I don't know. Maybe what would help further our case here is that maybe a string for the hat, maybe a backpack. Backpack might make it look too military now. I wish I had gone for like a wooden shotgun instead, but the colors already are too repetitive, so I thought, just having something in there that's a little bit different from the rest. And maybe I'm also forgetting the highlights that I was wanting to, or the shadows that I was wanting to apply for the eyes. So I think I'll do. Not sure about that. Made this eye look like, it's made it look sort of uneven there, which I was not wanting to do. Let's go for dark blue with a brown here already. And then some reds. Right. All right. And what else? I don't really want to noodle with it too much now. I think I'll just try to hide some of these here. I can see him as if he's in a thick forest. Oh boy. Ah, too strong there. That's okay. Paper's starting to buckle. Um, put some greens in. Okay, that works. Hmm. Let's wait for it to dry out a bit. Now that I look at it from the screen, I can see how bright these yellows are standing out. Oh gosh, that's okay. Okay, now I'll just add some darker black spots in these areas. I kind of like that. There's not a lot of commitment to make the background make sense. So thank God for that. Okay. All right. So I'll just let this dry out. Sometimes I guess the colors disappear a bit darker when they're wet, but then once they start drying out, that's when they start looking a little bit more tame. But that's it's another part of learning process in this journey. My son keeps playing with my pens and my pencils that I don't think I have any. I don't think I have any properly working pens to sign this right now. I guess I'll just use a blue pen. There we go. This is my painting of a hunter who is in the wilds. Um, this is purely from imagination and what I think I could fix in this painting. From what I can tell is that the colors, the background colors are really tame. The face is a little bit grainy and overworked. The hands are way too flat for where the gun is. Um, I think I could have shown more variation of the cast shadow just to suggest that, there's highs and lows on the clothing. Um, the eyes are not very well highlighted, but for now, we'll just leave it at that. There's more paintings to learn from, more paintings to do. So thanks for tuning in. Much appreciated. Bye.